right, looks like we're live, Tom.
Are we? I can't see anybody, but that's okay. I don't need to see anybody. How's everybody doing? As you know, I'm Tom, and right next to me, I forget which side he's on, is Chris. And this is a first, not a first ever, but it's a first for the Cash Myers campaign. First off, everybody who's out there and everybody who's there now, call somebody up. Let them know that we're here. I think that's an important thing to do. We all need to be informed, like somebody has said once upon a time, and you might as well get the answers from the people who actually know the answers. Now, Chris, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Well, it's good to see everybody, even though we can't see you. We welcome you on here, and we're just going to give it a little bit of time so we can get the audience built up. And then we'll start into a little bit of bios about ourselves. In the meantime, we're going to have some interactive polls that we're going to put out.
Yep.
And those polls will give us a little bit more knowledge about you, and hopefully it will lead us into answering or at least finding out some questions from the participants here, and really trying to see what you know about the elections and maybe what classification you are. So we'll pop some of those up. And as soon as we give it a little bit more time, we're building here, it's climbing. And we want to make sure that we're not repeating ourselves. People get on and they're like, oh, I wish I really would have caught the beginning.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Chris. Why don't you tell them? I'm sure they're aware of it. But this video is going to be recorded. And in some fashion, either as a whole or as links, as parts, it will be put on this site along with a few other really cool ideas that we've had. And I do want to make a point, just so you don't think that we are magical. I mean, we are pretty good, but magical would be a stretch. We do have two moderators, excuse me, that are in the background handling all the logistics. These are, good people who've decided that they're going to donate their time to help us keep you guys updated and informed in the most efficient way possible. I'm sorry, Chris. I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that this is being recorded and they will be able to show it to other people.
Yeah, another thing is I'm going to pop up the website real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Just share it real quick so everybody will kind of, we want everybody to go to it. It's cash-myers.com. .org. And let me share the screen and just see if we can pump that up while we're waiting for some more people to get in. I got a screen here. I can share it.
Up, guys. There you go.
Look at that. So you'll see that we have a lot of things up the top here. You'll be able to see the candidates. We hope to have all the candidates up by this weekend. So you come back, if you register, we will definitely make sure that you get notices as we add new content, as we explain all the offices and what they do. We'll have events, hopefully some meet and greets in person, not just virtually. We have a coming soon page, and we have some news, and we have a place for you to sign up. So as we go through here, we hope that everybody will take the time to share this with somebody. There's nothing like being educated by the people that are actually doing the job right now and being able to share the information that we've learned. We're going to tell you how far we go back, how Tom and I teamed up together from the beginning, and where all this has started. So we're going to make sure that as you see some of this interactive things, that you'll be able to go through the meet and greets. And then if you have questions, you'll be able to put them in here. We also have a frequently asked questions section here, back up at the top, that you can go ahead and be able to ask us questions. We'll be able to get back to you with it, and it'll help us in the future set up better meet and greets and more content for you.
Yeah.
So if
guys,
you have a question,
go ahead.
Be sure to put that question in the question and answer box. So if you look down there, there's a question and answer box. Click it, type in your question. We'll get to them as fast as they can. If it goes too fast, we'll try to slow it down. But the chat is not active, but the question and answers is active. So be sure to go in there and do that. Tom, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware. You don't have to wait until the next meet and greet. If you got somebody you think might have some questions that hey, you can try to stump us, but I mean, if you ask me.
Did we lose Tom? Well, I'm still here. I don't know what happened to Tom. We'll fix that technical difficulty. Yeah, what Tom was saying is that we're here for you. If you need questions asked prior to that, of course, we'll be here to ask those questions. So we have some people on here. I'm not sure what it's built up to yet. The guys will remind me here. Okay, great. Yeah, we're up to about 42 people right now in climbing. And so I'd like to give it maybe a minute or so. Here comes Tom back. I don't know what happened, but this is part of the nuance of starting this fresh. Tom,
I know
you were
exactly
about
what
to
happened.
say something, Tom, before everything went black there.
Yeah, so you don't need to wait until the next thing to get somebody. You've got somebody that you think needs to be part of this. Somebody you work with. Somebody's always asking questions. The first thing I want to let everybody know is the two people you have sitting in front of you right now on the screen are capable of answering just about any question that you can dream up for the campaign, for our histories, for how the election is run, how the union is run, what you need to do to be qualified to vote. We're going to touch on all of that tonight. Our biggest pet peeve, and it's not really even pet peeve, our biggest concern is a lot of times guys who are new to the field, and we know that 40% or better of our local union has been in here less than 6 years. One of the important things you need to know is that this administration, starting in 2016, has worked together as a group to almost double our numbers. Now, some people think that's a bad thing. Oh, they don't know the real meaning of the word brotherhood. They absolutely do know the meaning of the word brotherhood. They may not define it exactly how you do, but they do know what it is. All right. So it's important that these people have the opportunity to get the right answers, because sometimes they get answers like people say silly things. They bash the local on, on videos and on chat boxes, not chat boxes, chat papers, Reddit and stuff like that. And people from outside the local get the wrong idea. They don't know who that person is. They don't know who that group is. All they know is that they're bashing their own local. So if you want these guys to have the right information, if you want to teach them brotherhood, you need to get them involved in this type of stuff where they can ask the actual people, where we're not restricted in what we say. When we're
And
up on
so,
the dais, we
yeah,
have
and
to be very careful.
going with that, Tom. Let's tell them how we began, and maybe a
Oh,
little bio behind ourselves, and how did we get here? I
yeah.
mean, listen, I have touched almost every aspect of this union, starting as a summer helper in 1988 when I graduated from high school. I did the path of college. I went to Radford University for 2 years. When I came out of Radford University, after running out of money, as a lot of people do, I got into the apprenticeship at age 20. So if you do the math, here I am 35 years later, a product of this. I spent 17 years out in the field. After that, I went to the apprenticeship and I taught the apprentices for 10 years. I ran the apprenticeship program for 6 years after that. And then I ran for office to come up to the IBEW. You can ask any one of my students. This has been my plan. This plan has been in effect for 2 decades, at least, for the pathway to get where I'm at today through hard work and all the things we have to do. I wanted to touch every aspect of this union, from being a summer helper all the way up to where I am now, financial secretary, and hopefully, if you elect me, to be your business manager. So I'm going to let Tom tell you a little bit of his history and where he came from, and why he should remain as one of the best presidents in the history of this local. And Tom, go ahead, tell him a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. First off, I want to be very clear about the miraculous transformation of the JTC. When I reached out to Chris, I was in desperate times. I needed somebody to come take over the JTC who did not have the intention of, remaking it in some image that, nobody understood. All I wanted him to do is bring back the gravitas, to bring back the instructors who were a wonderful group of people who instructed the apprentices and the teledatas, now technology services apprentices, and the RTs to bring them up to the standards that was necessary. He took what was basically a dumpster fire, and that was once upon a time the highest rated JATC in the country, not amongst the highest, and brought it out of a dumpster fire and put it right back where it belonged. And he did that in, what was that, 6 years?
Yeah, it was. Let me go. I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine. I think it was about 5.5 years, right? 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was almost 6 years, and it was, because it was so crazy, we were in court for about the first 12 or 14 months.
Oh, the depositions that we had.
I remember Tom specifically coming up to me and said, "Hey, buddy, I need your help. Yep. Will you at least give me a shot at apprenticeship director?" And I promised I would give him 3 to 5 years. And I did that. I did the best of my ability, but I told him I couldn't stay because I had higher ambitions. Yes, and I made sure before I left, I shorted up with Bill Murphy. We got 5 assistant directors. We got 1,750 apprentices, and that program couldn't be better today than it's ever been. And so thank you, Tom, for talking me into it and me accepting and the pathway we've chosen to move forward. Because it is a successful pathway.
All right, so now let's get back to me. I'm pretty much on the same wavelength. I was a trainee, I was an apprentice, I was a journeyman, I was a foreman, I was a project manager for a very brief period of time, and then I became an instructor. I've been injured, I've been laid off, I've been fired. I've been everything that you could possibly deal with in this local while still working on the union side of things, not for management. Then some things happened while I was an instructor, and I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I never had a plan to run for office. I saw a need, I saw a void. And if you go back to the people who were here at the time, you'll know that my motto for that, me and George Hogan, we worked together on it. And honestly, Chris helped me on it, and Joe helped me on it, was vote your voice back. There's a lot of stories now of people are lying, people are hiding. No. All right. I vividly remember sitting in a union meeting at, Lanham, and before that on Kansas Avenue, where as soon as the gavel dropped for service pins, motion to adjourn, 5, 6, 7 people had their hands up to say something, anything. Nothing was said. People who got up and said anything against the president, you're out of order, sit down, or you're thrown out. That hasn't happened. My first and single promise was, I will never shut a meeting down while somebody wants to speak. Now, I got to be honest, you guys can shut them down. I can't say no to a motion to adjourn, which is why every time somebody makes a motion to adjourn and I notice there's somebody in the wings, I ask that person to rescind the order.
Hey,
what
Tom,
is going on? Go ahead, man. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good time to point out. I hate to interrupt your bio, but it's a great time to point out on how we got to something that we were told could never happen in the history of this union, which were the satellite meetings that a lot of you participate in and able to show up in. That had been asked. I asked it as an apprentice. I asked it as a journeyman. We asked it as instructors. We kept asking because I had to travel an hour and a half to go for a 20-minute meeting. The meetings were literally over in 25, 30 minutes tops because of what Tom just pointed out. So one of the reasons we went to satellite meetings were for just that. We not only do they want your voice back, but not make you travel an hour and a half to speak what you have to say.
Yeah. So imagine being a guy from Roanoke and having to drive 4.5 hours one way for a 20-minute meeting. You're never coming to a meeting.
Okay, so go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And other things were going down with the JAPC, and ultimately my job was threatened. So I made the decision to run for office because I could not see this happen to the rest of my brothers and sisters. I was supported by some really good people, Chris being one of them, Joe Dabbs being another one, George Hogan, Rich Murphy, the whole crew of people. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rank and file members got behind me to take the office of presidency. And since that time, we have moved forward. There's a lot of things that we have done as a group that everybody said could never happen. And we'll get to the timeline in a little bit. But that's what happened. Is I was perfectly content being an instructor, and then they tried to take it away from me. They would not let anybody speak at a meeting. When it came time for me to run for office, my own brother, Sean, told me they're going to turn on that machine and they're going to destroy you. There is no machine. All it takes is somebody with vision, somebody with support, somebody with a backbone, to be quite honest with you, to stand up and speak the truth. And to back that truth up, let's be very clear about that. You can say anything you want, but everything I said during that campaign was backed up with proof. Every claim, every statement, because I didn't want to be that person who just made statements to people to get them to vote for me. And to this day, I don't do it. I had a phone call today. Somebody called me up crazy about the retirement system. I was like, listen, I'll find out the answer for you, but you might not like it, but I'm going to tell you that answer. That's what caused me to run for this local union. Too many of our members were being shut down and shut up at the whim of one person.
And what I'd like to say on that point is that, so dial it back, 2016, with the people that Tom mentioned, we have been a solid group. As people have retired, we put another solid person in there in order to keep this moving. And we're asking you for your vote this time to keep it moving. We're doing great. The things that we are doing are things that have never happened before. I mean, look tonight. When would you ever be able to speak to a candidate live on a stream and be able to ask them whatever you want? And that being said, we have our first question here, Tom.
What is it?
This is right up your alley because you were the leader of putting this together. How can we improve PTO to get more time? And you could mention our negotiation that you and I said.
No, man,
the second part of that, before you answer, is I'd like to have also the second part, a B part, is like to have training or more options to attend classes so that they could be better suited on the job site. So if you want to take part A, as a former apprenticeship director, I'll take part B.
Absolutely. All right. So for the PTO specifically, first thing I want you to be aware of is when we decided that we were going to go after PTO, we had already decided to do that when the Montgomery County rule came in. And for those of you who are unaware, the Montgomery County actually put in a safe and sick leave that could only be used for specific things. It could only be used while you were working for the specific contractor. It didn't get paid out unless it was used for blah, 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 all that other stuff. And it did not count for the rest of the 4 other counties in Maryland or any of the counties in Virginia. So we went into that first negotiations, and to everybody's chagrin, I made absolutely sure that the first proposal that we from the labor side put in had PTO in it. And we went back and forth on that. I want to say probably 5 meetings, each one of those meetings being 5 or 6 hours. If you take the breaks out, we went to caucus and stuff like that. Pardon me. And we got it. Now, the first month was 0.012 hours or something like that. Now, I got to be honest with you, that doesn't sound like much. But we had never had it before. And most local unions don't have it, especially, they have vacation funds. Yeah, they do. They absolutely have vacation funds, and half of the time they're taken out of the pocket. But in order to improve it, we had to start somewhere. So in the 2018 contract, which is the first contract that I was involved in, we got it in. And it's grown steadily to now where if you work a normal 40-hour-a-week year, 50 weeks out of the year, you get about 80 hours. With the overtime that some of you guys are working right now, you're accruing much more than that. We've got it up to a total of 120 hours that you can have banked. When it gets to that 120 hours, it stops accruing. So please just take some time off with your family. That's half the reason it's in there, so you can spend time with your family. My future problems with this, not problems, my future goals.
All right?
Challenges, yes. The accrual rate is already to the point that on a normal, on a normal year, you're getting 2 weeks a year off. With the overtime we're working, people are accruing up to 4 weeks a year off. That's non-productive time. So the contractors push back and push back and push back and push back. They'd rather do this. They'd rather do that. They can't be off the job sites. All right. Okay, fine. They can say whatever they want. And we come back and say, nope, this is what they want. Now, here's the thing. Everybody says, oh, if you slam your fist down on the table hard enough, you'll get what you want. No, you slam your fist down on the table hard enough and you end up at CIR. All right. CIR is not the place you want to be when you're looking for language and unheard of change. CIR mostly deals with money. All right. So what we're looking for in the next contract, and I want you guys to take a look at the previous contracts. The first contract that I was involved in that we went across, we had to deal with the benefits. The pension plan was in desperate need. If you remember, there was a meeting right after I got in where somebody was saying, you know, it's going to go bankrupt. It was never going to go bankrupt. All right. But we fixed it. It's now expected. We just had a meeting 3 days ago. It's now expected to be fully funded with average market returns, including a downturn of this year, by 2033, fully funded. We just recently got us to $100 of pension credit. Your health benefits have been improving. So we had to attack that in the first contract. So you look at the first contract and you went from $45.15 or something like that to $48 an hour. That's not a whole lot of money in the pocket, brothers and sisters. But look what happened to the pension. Look what happened to the annuity, and look what happened to your health and welfare. Go to the next contract. $6 plus an hour in the pocket. $6 an hour in the pocket. You accrued more PTO. We did better with the annuity, or the IAP. It's not really annuity. And in this last contract, we knocked that out of the park. You guys are going to be at $62 an hour.
And Tom,
next year.
As we stay on the PTO for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much information, but as we stay on the PTO, and tell them what we tried to do this time with the PTO. We did get more.
Yeah, we tried to get it so that you could accrue it to 120 hours a year on a normal work year. That's what we tried to do. So when we negotiate these contracts, all of us get together and we take the information we see from the field. We take it from the polls. We take it from our friends. We take it from the people who call us out at union meetings saying what they want. And what we were trying to do was to get an accrual rate that would put us at 120 hours. So right now we're at 0.039 hours. I think we were trying to get it to 0.054 hours or something like that. I forget what the specific number was. And we wanted to go to 4 weeks. All right. So we're talking 160 hours. That was a no-go, both of them. So we decided, hey, you know what? With the amount of overtime that people are working right now today, let's get them to be able to accrue an extra week or an extra 20 hours or whatever it was. And that's what we did. So it's not like we went in there and said, okay, well, just give us what you want. Just think of it from 2018 to today. With the group of people who are currently asking for your support, you went from zero overtime, or not zero overtime, zero PTO, to accruing 80 hours a year if you don't do any overtime at all, up to 120. And if you punch your foreman in the face, I don't recommend that you do that, brothers and sisters, but no matter how you separate from the company, you get paid out. And for my brothers and sisters in Virginia, how's the state-run PTO there? Where's their safe and sick leave? You have it? You do now, because the team that's there negotiated for the entire brotherhood, not just journeymen. We don't leave them, our workers, out. We don't leave them technology services out.
Yeah. And with that being said, with the same guy, since he did have a Part B, the Part B was how could he get more training, retraining options?
Yep.
The JETC tries to offer everything they can, and now with online classes, there will be more and more offerings for classes, more for journeymen, because the apprentices, they won't be going to school at night, which will open up more seats for more journeyman level classes and retraining. But if you ever have an idea of a class or something you want to do, I always encourage the fact that you reach out to the apprenticeship director. He can bring it to the trustees. When I was a director and people brought good ideas to me and even bad ideas, I listened. We then tried to implement them. I'm still a trustee on that JETC and JETTF. So your ideas will be heard. Talk to Bill Murphy, get those ideas there. And if the class is needed, we'll definitely put it on. We have a couple other questions rolling in here, Tom.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. Should the
Yeah.
executive board be examined? It was the same size when we had less than a third of the membership that we have now. That's not a bad idea. But the Constitution specifies how many people you can have on there. All right. So that's something that we absolutely can look at. But and I don't happen to have one near me. If one of the moderators could look it up, it says something in the Constitution about the executive board shall be 3, 6, whatever. And could you feed that to us, Chris?
It's also in the bylaws, and it's what the rules we have to find. But
yeah,
maybe someday they will expand it for people that have more than that. And let's see, that was about the executive board. And then what I see next here is the last contract. And Tom, you'll like this. The last contract was lacking. Well, I would say that that's a very subjective statement.
Well, hold on. Let's be honest.
Let me finish it because I know you want to get this one.
No. He's asking you, where do you think it was lacking? He didn't say it was lacking. He was asking, where do you think it was lacking?
Okay. Well, let's do that then. With what was lacking in the last contract, and do you think that aspect can be approved in the next contract? That's a good one because we both sat on the negotiating committee. So you picked one that you think was lacking and how we can try to get it. And I'll pick one that I think was lacking, and we'll see what we can do to try to get it.
You want to go first?
Have probably many, but I think you got to pick one.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. My first and biggest swing and a miss was we tried to get busing paid. That was my biggest swing and a miss. We tried. We locked that meeting up at least 4 times on that single topic. The reasons for it, all right? Most of the time, the parking on those job sites is not controlled by the contractor on the large sites that require busing. Getting on and off the site is problematic. The contractor brought back then less than 20% of the people would be, eligible for that. Because most of the people don't take buses from the job site. We did the survey on that, and that's the information we got. How can we improve upon that? So as the data center world starts to move and we get into larger areas and the distances are longer, we can use that as leverage. We can use the size of the data center jobs themselves as leverage. But leverage doesn't mean you're shutting down the job, brothers and sisters. Leverage means that, hey, we've had 50 grievances about, hey, I want to drive my car to the job site, this, that, and I need to be there 20 minutes early. Well, that's the Portal to Portal Act, all right? But we do have issues where, hey, people are forced to take a bus, and if they have to leave in the middle of the day, there's a problem. So what did we do? We got that fixed first. So now there is busing language in the contract. All we need to do is build on it now. So that was our biggest swing and a miss in this particular one. I think you go.
Yeah, and I'll pick one. I've never liked it because when it comes down to the paid holidays, we negotiated these paid holidays in way back when. We gave up in our pocket 50 cents per holiday, 3 the first year, 3 the second year, 3 the third year. I think we should have holidays. We tried to negotiate that we got paid holidays no matter what. You didn't have to have 2 licenses. You didn't have to have a license, but they bucked back. So where did we settle? Well, we settled that you had to have 2 licenses now, but there was no 2 weeks before and the week after, and they couldn't put all these stipulations on it. And now you could use your PTO in lieu of it. There's a lot of things you can do now you couldn't do before. And so if I had to pick one, Tom, that would be the one I'd pick.
All righty. Well, we both were allowed to pick one, so we're going to move on. I got another question here from Anonymous. Guys, I'm perfectly fine with Anonymous. I just wish you trusted us to know that we have never retaliated against anybody ever. So, is the local too big to function democratically? If 10% of the members wish to use 7 minutes at a meeting, they would last the whole week. Certainly, there are members who are shut out queue on time with a space of a union. Okay, so let me paraphrase this for you guys. What this brother or sister is saying is, Is our local too big to run as a democracy? First off, the answer to that is a solid no. Absolutely not. All right. The 7 minutes is something that we agree upon. Right now, it is the standing rule. But if I have 50 people standing in line, I can cut that down to 2 minutes. I can cut that down to 1 minute. I can make it so that nobody can speak more than once on a single topic. All right. All of that is stuff that is within the power of the president to do right now as it sits. The meetings are also legally allowed to last till 11 o'clock. All right. So there's really no prohibition to having 100 people, 200 people in Lanham, 100 people in Manassas, 100 people in Southern Maine. You get the point. But my problem, and it's not even a problem, my biggest concern with this question is it harkens back to something that was said at a union meeting about 8 months ago. If they don't attend meetings, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Hard no. And if anybody was at that meeting, you know exactly how ridiculously I responded to that. Every single member of IBEW Local 26 who has a yellow ticket in their pocket has the right to vote, has the right to speak. Very simply put, you can't force somebody to fit into your mold. Now, I'm not talking about the question. I'm talking about what happened 7 months ago. If somebody wants to speak, they get to speak. If somebody wants to vote who has never attended a union meeting, they have every right to do it because they can read the proposals that we send out to everybody. They know what they think is right and wrong. So is it too big to function democratically? Never. Is it too big to function where everybody is going to be comfortable with everything that's going on? Well, that's not what democracy is. The control of a union meeting is left to the president. The president has to make sure that everybody gets an equal opportunity to speak up until 11 o'clock.
That's what I was going to point out, Tom, is that there is an end. It can't last all week. We have a cutoff at 11 o'clock, and at 11 o'clock, Mr. Chair, who sits on the screen here, will say meeting adjourned. So you can't go all night. You try to do the business of the local. You try to get it done. And that's why good of the union is towards the end. So that when it gets to this point where they get 7 minutes to talk, you give them the 7 minutes to talk. And they can even ask for a second 7 minutes if they'd like to, given time and given the opportunity, as long as they're discussing a different subject matter. Okay. So let me see. Do we have something else?
We got lots of them.
Okay. They said it'd be nice if we could get some more questions and maybe not give such a long answer, Tom.
Well, I don't see that. Okay. Well, the answers have to be long. Okay. Please explain the benefit of the overtime language. Okay. Well, the short version of it is you do not lose overtime that has already been earned. In the previous contract, if you worked 12 hours on Monday, you expected the 4 hours, the last 4 hours to be at overtime, unless you didn't come in on Tuesday. Now, if you work 12 hours on Monday, that stays overtime. Anything past 10 hours is double time on a 5/8 shift. Anything past 12 hours is double time on a 4/10 shift. Once you've earned it, it stays. Does that make sense to everybody? That's the benefit to the overtime language for the average person working in the field. All right. Now, the next question, I believe, came from the same person. And I'm going to answer this one really quickly. Please explain how the contract language, I'm assuming that it's the OT language, protected the small contractors. Very simply put, the smaller contractors who are not working the overtime jobs on the data centers cannot afford, all right, a $12, $14 an hour pay increase, a $16 an hour pay increase. But the people who are working on the data centers are working for the contractor that, while they're working on the data centers, can't afford it. So just think about how much the hourly rate would have to be to make up for you're working 10 hours a day, it's time and a half all the time. 12 hours a day, 2 hours of it's double time. How much would the dollar amount have to have been to make up for that? The smaller contractors could not afford it. They would have had to do something, maybe go out of business. I don't know. But we have 12,000 brothers and sisters that we're keeping working. They don't all work on data centers, brothers and sisters. So I'm trying to keep them short. All right. You go ahead with the next one.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the next one, and I think it's a good one. The question that I see is it's with regard to the affinity groups, and I don't know if we're going to point the person out, but I do like this fella. Uh, it says asking me and the president that the affinity groups have been supported very well by Brother Dabbs as the business manager. And he really wants to know that if I become business manager, would I keep supporting the affinity groups? Well, this person, and he did put his name out there, but this person I've had you in my office, I've sat you down and I've tried to guide you. And you know, of course, I believe in it with what I heard that came back from the EWMC from Brother Dabbs as he visited out there. I met with him and he described to me what he learned at the EWMC, the feeling that came about in the EWMC, the time that I've spent with the Renew Group. And I have to meet with all of them. As financial secretary, I provide all the shirts to them. I provide all the coins, everything that they get to go to these trips. We dress them out. We want you to be the top-notch groups there. And whether it's the Sisters of 26, any group we have down to the softball team, we want you dressed to the nine. We want you representing. And I heard out there at the EWMC that we look the best, that everybody was dressed to the nine, and that we represented well. So to answer your question, you know we will. We will support you to the best of our ability and to the point of which members will approve funds because it's the members' money. So that's my answer to that question. It's a great question. I appreciate it.
I like that question too. I'm not going to call the person out, but you didn't ask me, but I support you guys as well. There's another question. This guy, I think, has an axe to grind. Please explain how the contract language for OT and the wage increase outperformed CIR. Well, the simple part about it is CIR doesn't give you contract language, so the time and a half after 8 and the double time after 10 wouldn't have been there. Simple as that. The busing language wouldn't have been there. The language for the PTO wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
All right. So you would have gotten, maybe you'd have gotten an extra $2 an hour. I mean, if we really knocked it out of the park and we tried and we tried and we tried, you would have gotten an extra $2 an hour.
But we weren't willing to give up that language.
No,
one of the major things that we got back from the polls and from the members in the union meetings was we need these the language back in there. We want to break. For God's sakes, in the history of time, I've never seen that break in there. We got it there. Yep. So we went for more language. And guess what? Every time you want something, you have to give something. It is negotiation. You go to CIR, you give it up to everything. CIR decides, and they're only going to give you a percent value. We would have lost the entire language portion, of which even the people that disagree with us will agree that portion was important to get the verbiage in. Do they think we could have got more money? Well, everybody thinks we can get more money until you're sitting in that
give
room.
Up everything else.
See how hard it is to negotiate. It's very difficult.
Right. And I'd also like to point out, it's kind of, disingenuous to say, well, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to go to CIR. So basically what the people who are saying, when they say, well, if they don't give us what we want, we're just going to go to CIR, they're going to tell, 26 other people, or it's 12 or 13 or something like that. We're putting our fate in your hand. Now, this guy might be somebody from a bad local who just got a bad contract, or the NECA representatives might have just gotten their butt handed to them up in New York or St. Louis. So when they come here, they're going to take it out on you. If you think for 1 second that going to CIR is you pounding your chest and saying you're not going to take it from the contractors, you're crazy. Because you basically put the fate of the local union of 12,000 members who count on a solid paycheck and benefits coming in on a regular basis in the hands of people who don't give a crap about you. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, what else we got here? What are your plans to expand office?
I'm muted here, and that question that you're reading a little bit there, and I would like to hit it because it's come up a couple times.
That's yours.
Expanding the executive board. So I did look it up because everybody has access to the Constitution. And if you look up in the Constitution on Article 26, the officers of the local union, it gives you parameters, but it says the parameters could always be changed, but only by the international president and only through the Constitution.
Yep.
So it does give you parameters. And it says, I think you could have maybe one more executive board member. It depends. I'd have to read into it and then compare it to our bylaws. But yes, so there might be a possibility, but I have to get the approval of the international president. It's not something that Tom or myself can do.
That's absolutely correct. All righty, what else? Organizing, I think it's a great thing. I'm at 29. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. This is a question that I'm a little concerned about. I don't understand it. Okay, so
hey, Tom.
Yeah.
The questions are coming in so hot and heavy that if you could, they're going to try to sort them out and get them in there in the order of which they can, because they're feeding down so much and it looks like you might miss them. So if you refer to the chat, we'll feed them there and we can try to surmise some of them, because we have one person or two or three, four people asking the same question.
Okay. While they're doing that,
we can surmise it down.
I'm going to answer what I think the most important goals for our team is. You can probably see this question. What the question is, I'll read it to you directly. I'm going to answer what I think, then you answer what you think, and that's you give time to go through stuff. What are the three most important goals for your team to achieve in the next 3 to 6 years? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first this time if you'd like.
Go ahead.
So of course, we're always working on things well in advance. I mean, we're going to a mobilization on Tuesday night of next week that you might get a flyer. It's up in Frederick. We've been called to duty from Local 24 to go up there and help mobilize, because our people are going to work on those data centers. But those data centers couldn't have been possible if we didn't put and help with PLAs and legislation 3 to 6 years ago. So the things that are happening right now are things we planned 3 to 6 years ago. How will we do that? We want to expand. As the new stuff comes in, these SMRs and the different ways to feed these data centers. I think that it's important that we keep up to date and we keep pushing against these legislators, because with not having the most friendly president in there for unions, we have to get back down to the state and local levels to get that through. Some of the other things are we can't leave the work behind. And when I say the work behind, the Wendy's, the Starbucks, the apartment buildings, the split facilities, we got to make sure that we don't leave those behind, because if the data centers ever dry up, we can't let the non-union get in there and take over that part of our workforce. And so we will strive to maintain that. And in doing so, organize. We need, and I'm not kidding you, we need 500 to 600 people in the next 3 months. Our organizers are challenged. We did over 2,000 people last year. We need to increase our membership. And if we do, it will help us be successful in getting these jobs and capturing market share. So that's the answer for me, Tom.
All right. Well, I'm going to chime in on that organizing thing, but that's not going to be one of my three most important things. First thing I want to do is I want to do everything I can now that I've had participated in 2 contracts that were focused on dollar amounts. I want to focus on language. I want to win the busing argument. I want to take care of that sanitation thing. I want to make absolutely certain that the pension fund is set so that we never again have to worry about, a downturn in the market endangering our pension fund. Right now, there's no chance of it happening unless the market gets hit by basically a meteorite. Pardon me. Ooh, I have gas. The next thing I want to do is I want to make absolutely sure that with the assistance of the business manager, Chris, when he becomes the business manager, that the political outlook of Local 26 expands further out. I mean, everybody knows we're going to want more money. Yep, we got that. All right. Somebody just said raise our pensions to $100 per year of service. Okay, we did that already. Thank you very much. That's what it is right now for 100 years or $100 per year credit year you have as a journeyman. But I think the most important thing I want to do is I want to get back to the point where an electrician standing in the field does not have to bow his head. We're getting there. The right to demand a RIF, all right, that is huge. That is something that the contractors, they gave up reluctantly. I want to make sure that every one of you gets to a job you were treated with respect, and I want that language put in there. That doesn't mean you get to go in there and sit on your butt for 20 hours out of the week and say, oh, wait, they picked on me. No. You go in there, you give your 8 for 8, and they treat you with the respect you deserve. That language or that feeling can be codified in contract language. Obviously, we want more money, but I want to make sure that we are treated with the respect that we deserve. All around the country, 20 years ago, everybody said Local 26 was a bad place to be. 15 years ago, 16 years ago, you could hear the travelers, oh, you don't want to go to New York, you don't want to go to this company or that company. You can still see it today. The problem is our members are the ones saying it, and they have an agenda. All over the country, people are trying to come into our local. They're trying to become a part of this local. The reputation of Local 26 has changed at large, and I want to make sure that that continues to go in the right direction, despite what some people say. There's another question here.
Yeah, we're getting peppered left and right. Chat, questions and answers. It would be easier if we kept the ball in one section, either chat or questions and answers.
Well, I don't even have the chat open. Holy crap, Lois.
To see the one here. Hey, David Bonilla, I'll call you out because you're my boy. Raise our pension to $100 per credit. So it already is, David. Happened January 1st, brah. Come on, dog. It's already there. Trustees took care of that. Last December it was approved and implemented January 1st. Yep. And don't forget, Dave, I love you.
This is a shameless plug from an anonymous. Great contract. Thank you for all the work you did. You're welcome. And I appreciate the sentiment. We don't get to hear that any much.
And don't be anonymous. Come on out.
Yeah, let us know. Any reason that the overtime language doesn't specifically note Saturday after 10 hours? Was that on purpose or just a miscue? Neither. It was originally supposed to be the same language. Saturday, the first 8 hours, unless you had already broken 40, would have been straight time, this, that, and the other thing. And what we did was a compromise was made, and that's the way it works. All right? Compromises. Anybody who thinks you're going to walk into a contract negotiation and you're going to say, this is the way it's going to be, is going to blow this place up to the point where I don't even want to discuss that. It's just going to make me feel a certain kind of way. So a compromise was made in order to get you guys the double time after 10 and not lose your overtime if you took a day off. Saturday still had to be kept as a makeup day. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you work 12 hours. You got 8, 2, and 2, 8, 2, and 2, 8, 2, and 2. That's 24, 6, and 6. 24 straight, 6 time and a half, and 6 double time. You don't come in on Thursday, and you come in on Friday, and you work another 12 hours. So now you have 36 hours of straight time, 8 hours of time and a half, 8 hours of double time, and you can't lose it. Contractor allows you to work on Saturday. You have to make up the 4 hours that you missed at straight time, and then the rest of the day is at time and a half until you break 60. So if you break 60 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, guess what? You're on double time on Saturday. So that's that. Chris, why don't you pick one?
Okay, that's great. Let me see here. This is right up my alley. Do you think challenge coins are a form of patronage? And when did the body decide this? Well, it's amazing that we always traded pins, right? If you could see, you can stop by the office. We have pins. Brother Murphy has almost every pin that's ever been invented in the world hanging up in his office. So it was pins, and at conferences and conventions, you would trade these pins. Well, the challenge coin is really from the military. You would receive that for doing something special. So somehow that translated into the IBEW to where people created coins to represent their local. I've come up with a couple since I've been in. We had some for the convention. We have some basic ones. It's very pardon the pun, challenging to come up with different ideas all the time. I had suggested that somebody, if they're really interested in these challenge coins, they should create some sort of subcommittee and present it to the executive board, one a month, an idea, and see if we can implement it. We have some people that want to put all these crazy, wild things on there. One of the things I prided myself on, it's got to be promote. It's got to promote unionism. It's got to be good feeling. We're not going to be like 666 where the devil is flaming out and we have all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're going to keep it clean. But any ideas you have, bring it my way. I love it. So that's one I got, Thomas. You want to pick another one?
Yeah, sure. Okay. A lot of people are saying thank you for a lot of the things we did. What percentage did the RW and the TS technology services percentage? Oh crap, I got to do the math. So it went from $29 credit year to $44 a credit year. So hold on, let me get my handy dandy calculator out. Unless somebody can do the math quickly. Come on, work, damn you. There we go. So 29 divided by 44. 45%. It increased by 45% in one fell swoop. So that was a big deal. For the longest time, the R brothers and sisters and the technology services brothers and sisters said, how are we supposed to survive on $29 per credit year? And our response was, well, it's not just $29 per credit year. You got that plus the NEBF plus the IO plus your annuity. But we took that to heart. And the last time we went in there, we went into the meeting, we talked to the trustees from the management side, and we said, listen, these guys, they need more. The actuary said we could do this and it would not harm the fund, but we couldn't do the same thing for the journeyman. A 45% increase for them, it would have bankrupted the fund. So about 45% for both of them. During the last negotiations, when the technology services ratified it, one of the guys got up and he said, you got to do something about our pension credits. You have to. So we did. All right.
All right. So what I got here, Tom, and this is kind of going to be a combo question for us.
Great.
And if people aren't putting anonymous, I'm going to call you out and thank you and say no and yes. And so I got Jeffrey LaRoche. He says, thank you for giving us the opportunity to ask some tough questions. Can you elaborate on the training experience that it takes to be a successful negotiator? I'll give you my experience, and then I'll let Tom give it to you, and then I'll make a comment. How important is an experienced negotiator? 9 years ago, I was starting as the apprenticeship director, and I negotiated the contract for our local 2 admin staff. And you say, well, wow, that's not very big. You only had 9 people. Well, you have to start somewhere. I learned to negotiate that contract. Then I help out with other local 2 contracts. And this past one, I was asked to come on board. So you learn through the experience of the others. Tom, who he can expand on, he went up to Cornell University to learn how to be a negotiator. He also brought those Cornell people back to teach our staff how to be better negotiators. We're not just going at this haphazardly. We are invested. We do this for a living, and we want you to entrust us. We're here to help the membership, and we try to get all the training. We go to different conferences to learn the different laws and things like that. So, Jeffrey, I hope that answered your question. Tom, do you want to elaborate on the training for negotiating?
Yeah. So here's the thing about negotiations. Everybody thinks they can negotiate something because they bought a car once upon a time. That's not the same thing, because you want the car and they want to sell the car. When you sit down to negotiate something like this, the contract with the staff downstairs, the contract for the inside wireman, the journeyman, we are starting from a point where, and I want to be very clear about this, the contractors don't want anything to change. They are perfectly happy with how much money they're paying you right now, what the benefits are right now. And every time you bring something up, they have accountants, actuaries, and lawyers sitting behind them going, say this, say this, say this. Now, we have actuaries and lawyers as well. But the people sitting at the table have to be able to negotiate. They have to be clear and concise. Earlier, somebody asked me a question about was the Saturday a miscue. You can't do that. If you have a miscue and it gets through, that is now contract language. So every single T must be crossed. Every I must be dotted. You can't go in there and pound your chest and then go out to the membership and go, rah, rah, rah. They got up and walked away from the table. They can't handle me. Because if you do that, they just got up from the table and nothing is happening.
So with that being said, we'd love for it to be a perfect world, right? I've heard people mention you should let apprentices sit on the negotiating committee. You should let regular rank and file sit on there. I'm telling you, as someone who sat in that room, it's the single most difficult thing I've ever done in my life because I'm representing the members, my colleagues on that negotiating committee, Chris Brooks, who was on the executive board, Adam Bowles, who's out there as a satellite agent. You have John Collins, who's the lead organizer. You had Joe Dabbs. You had Tom Myers, myself. We all came from different aspects. I'm looking at it from maybe the apprenticeship aspect. Joe's looking at it for 40 years of experience. You got Tom looking at it as the president. So we chose a negotiating team for a purpose, and every single purpose in that, or every single person in the room had a specific job to do. And we did it well. And I would think
also that
what's that? Go ahead, Tom.
My first contract. So as you all know, I was first elected in 2016, and we were working under a contract that was negotiated by the previous administration. In 2018, I was involved in my first contract negotiations, and in the room I had George Hogan, I had Joe Dabbs, absolutely. And by the way, anybody who doesn't think Joe Dabbs deserves a standing round of applause at every union meeting is out of their flipping mind. Because without Joe Dabbs, my first year or two up here would have been a complete disaster, and that contract would not have been as good as it was. So in that room, I had Joe. When we were outside of the rooms, I had Joe, lawyers, and actuaries. My experience from then to now is evident looking at the contracts. Don't listen to me. Go look at the damn contracts and see how much better those contracts have gotten. But everybody needs somebody to make sure that they are under control. You all know me. I get a little excited. You can't have two of me in the room. You can't do it. You need a me.
I'll have to agree. For every Tom Myers, there might have to be a Chris Cash.
There has to be. Absolutely.
There's a yin, there's a yang, there's a good cop, there's a bad cop. If not, it doesn't work. If you put everybody in there and they're all exactly alike and they're all the same, you've already lost. I got another good one here, Tom, and I think this is a fair question. Rob Helms, I'm going to give you credit for it. And Rob Helms has already announced he's running for executive board, so I ain't afraid to show the opposition to our slate either. Good luck, Rob.
Exactly.
What qualities do you believe are most important for the new candidate stepping up, which Rob is a new candidate for the executive board, as I was when I first ran. I ran as a director of apprenticeship for executive board, and for the first time, 3 people that were not employees of the IBEW became part of the executive board. So different things happen. What would you do to tell these people is shifting the days for the first time representatives? What would you do to help them make those roles an easier transition? What would you describe to help someone that is stepping into a new role? What would you tell for that first time representative?
Me? All right. I actually did it. All right. So I went from being an instructor to being president. What I will tell them is this is not a 60 or 70 hour a week job. This job, you can ask my wife, I'll bring her to the picnic next time. This job is easily 90 to 100 hours a week. If you don't know what you're doing, it's more than that. I get phone calls on Sunday morning and I answer them. I get phone calls Saturday night and I answer them. Once upon a time, I was at a recital. My daughter plays the flute, and I left it to go meet a member who was in distress. Negotiating contracts. Basically, you're spending 12 hours a day doing this. So if you are coming into this completely new, if I had to give somebody advice, and I will give somebody advice if it's necessary, is make sure that you do not get rid of the people that can answer the questions. It's as simple as that. Do not get rid of the people who can answer the questions. You might have to get rid of the person you ran against. I understand that. But the other people, without them, you are going to hurt the livelihoods of 12,000 plus people. And I keep saying 12,000 people. You're talking about the trustees on the health and welfare. That's 35,000 belly buttons. That's the wives, children of, members. So somebody comes in here like a raging bull and just says, I'm going to do it my way. Nah, don't get rid of the people who know the answers to the questions. That's my.
I got a good one here, and I love to call it out because it's about me. Chris, are you deliberately shaming anonymous posters? There are those among us who have learned the hard way to stay under the radar. I'm not. I want everybody to come out. This is our local, and whether you're an anonymous attendee I don't care. I think it's funny, and you can stay under the radar, or you can pop yourself out next time. We had another from another anonymous postee. It has some healthcare questions in there. I don't know if we're going to get into the weeds, and we really got to find out. It's getting late. It's a school night. We're creeping up on an hour.
Holy crap! I'm having a lot of fun here.
We're going to try a new thing to see how it is because we want some feedback. We're going to send you a survey afterwards, but we're going to try a poll. So let's see if you can answer this poll that's coming up. You should be able to click on it from whatever device you're using, and let's see what question our pollsters, our moderators are going to pop up. We'll see it.
Where the panelists cannot answer the polls. All right,
we cannot. No. How often would you like to see
doing that? I'm going to answer this question. All right. Can you speak on some of the improvements in our healthcare benefits?
Tom, the poll's up.
I see it. They can answer while I'm talking.
Okay. I was going to read it to them. How often would you like to see these webinars? Only pick one choice. That's all it's allowed. And so we'll know how often you want us to come back, and we'll exchange information. Go ahead, Tom. Answer that question while we're waiting.
Okay. Braces, maternity, lifting the $1 million cap. All right. So the trustees, 3 of them are local 26 members or 26 officers, and 3 of them are management officers. Braces, orthodontry was never in the contract or the health benefits until this crew got in there. The maternity leave thing, I personally have witnessed an 8-month pregnant sister climbing a ladder. We lost our crap. We went to the membership. The EWTF, and we said, how can we stop this? So we did. We have maternity leave for our sisters, not the spouses, but the ladies who are climbing the ladders. All right. Lifting the $1 million cap, that is going to be so beneficial. And this is the most ridiculous thing. I'm going to talk to you about stupid rules. All right. Once upon a time, if you had $1 million expense, you lost your health care entirely. You got nothing. The ACA came in, and for those of you who voted for the guy who's sitting in the White House right now, the ACA is actually Obamacare, okay? It's just the name they gave it. It made it illegal to take somebody's health care away. So what our trustees did back in the day is they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take the cap from $1 million, and we're going to make it that you lose 50% of your benefits. You lose everything except major medical, and then the ratio is 50-50 rather than 80-20. But here's the catch, all right? All we really did was take away their dental, their vision, their hearing, the things to make quality of life important. Because the little known cap is remember we talk about lowering your out-of-pocket expense? When we got into office, it was $10,000. And because the fund was so well funded after the first 2 contracts that we did, we could change that to $80,000 or $8,000 out of pocket expense, and then the fund picks up everything. So the only thing we were taking away from these people who had a one-time event that brought them to $1 million is everything else. We were still picking up the tab for everything. So when we did that, we recognized that we were doing something where it was done before us, but we saw the rule and we was like, and Chris was in the room, he was like, this doesn't make any sense. So once they get to $8,000, we're paying everything anyway? Yeah, so we got rid of it. Now, It doesn't matter. You keep your benefits as long as the person who is earning those benefits is working, which is the way it should be. It should have been the entire time, and it will stay that way in the future. What's that poll say? Okay, here we go. Every month. Huh. I guess that's the anonymous people. You're muted, Chris. All right, I think we're still going to do it every week. I don't care. You don't have to come every week if you don't want to. Chris, you're muted. All righty. What else we got here? Are you deliberately saying, oh, man, you people got too. Joe Dabs. Joe, thank you very much for your little input. He said we're very handsome, and once a month is fine. I'm having too much fun. Do you have a plan to this? Well, I'm not gonna repeat his name. Do you have a plan to get more engagement from members to become more involved, to show up when we need them? Like, we absolutely do. And one of the initiatives that has come into play right now is we're going to do community training and activism. So we're basically taking this show on the road, and we're going to go to communities where we need a stand-up or a mobilization. And we're going to train people why it's important. And we're going to tell them this is what we need. Maybe we do it virtually. Maybe we do it in person. All right. The last part of your question, it bothers me a little. I wish people more would just take it upon themselves, but it feels like most needs incentives. I don't know that they need incentives, but we can't always be asking people to step away from their lives. Remember, this is a union. It's not a suicide pact. People have children, they have families, they have parents that need assistance, they have any number of obligations. And I wrote an article about it. You can go online and look it up. 8 hours for the union, one time a year. If I could get the brothers and sisters of this local union to stand up one time a year for 8 hours, we would be unstoppable. So do we have a plan? Yes. Are we going to get more engagement? Yes. But I'm not going to sit there and shame people who can't be as active as a 23-year-old with no children who lives at home with their parents. I'm not going to shame them. I just can't do it. Okay, what else we got?
I got a couple other ones here that are pretty quick and easy to answer. Can we get some better local 26 gear for sale on the website or web store since we are making pretty good money? Yes, of course we can. But go back to the coins. It's hard to come up with the new ideas because when I see the things all the time, it's hard to come up with new ideas. So I welcome some ideas. Another one, why do we have to pay for picnics? They should be free for all members. We charge such a small fee for the picnics, and it's really to get a head count and kind of make people show. Last year's picnic, 300 people didn't show to the Manassas picnic. That picnic that we charge $15 for, that costs between $80 and $90 per member. The T-shirt alone is $17. We're in the hole when we hand you the T-shirt. We do it out of good of the union. We do it for brotherhood and sisterhood. So it's not about the money. It never has been. But there's got to be some accountability because those 300 people that didn't show up at $80 a head cost this brotherhood and membership $24,000.
Yep.
For no-show Jones. So we want to make sure that we're being fiduciarily responsible. It's my job to give the numbers. It's the executive board's job to make decisions. And ultimately, the buck stops with the business manager. So I want to make sure that we're making proper decisions what's best for the entire union. So great question. I like all the questions.
So another person just asked a question. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it. Chris, both of us, what are we most proud of our accomplishments as we were in the offices that we're in? And how do we see that momentum continuing? And this is Robert. Love Robert. All right. Into the next chapter for the membership. I'm going to bastardize it a little bit. I'm going to take it away from the contracts because we all know I like to preen about the last 3 contracts, how they've gotten progressively better. I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm actually going to give some credence to Joseph Dabbs. When I first became president, I had been to exactly 3 Christmas parties and 1 picnic. And the reason that was the case is because every time I went to a Christmas party, I saw some of our members acting up. I saw burnt and raw at the same time Italian sausages. I saw chicken that was ice cold and bloody on the inside. And I was, let's just say I was put off. I brought this to Joe's attention when I became president, and we were just talking because he has a knack of saying, what is it that you see and what can be fixed? And we were just talking over coffee, and I drink an inordinate amount of coffee. And I said, well, I never went to Christmas parties because and I told him they were disgusting. The next conversation I had with them, we were finding new caterers. We were finding new places because he agreed the members of Local 26 deserve so much better. If you go to a Christmas party today, a holiday party, whether it's in Roanoke or Manassas, or Winchester or Lanham, or you go to one of our picnics, the level of service, the level of pride that our members show at those events, it is the best thing in the world. So if you want to know what I'm most proud of, outside of the contract language and fighting for our members, it's that right there. When you show up to a Christmas party, you don't think you're in a homeless shelter feeding a bunch of homeless people. That's the single most thing I'm most proud of. And you can go look at it at every party we have. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I would say, and that's a great question, Rob. I would say that starting early on in my career as an apprentice, I took pride in going and volunteering. There was no Renew group. There was no EWMC. And so we did what we did. We did blood drives and we did cancer thons and we did all these things. And then as I ran work, I prided myself on treating the workers the best I could with respect. There's not a person that worked with me that'll tell you that I ever disrespected them and that I didn't give them everything I could, whether it was teaching them something or how I treated them on the job site. Moving to an instructor inside, man, did I have fun teaching. I miss it. And for those of my students in the past that had the time to spend time with me, I gave everything I could to you. I moved up to the director of apprenticeship because there was a need. The place was on fire. I took the time, got the ship moving forward, and moved up. And once my job was done there, I needed another challenge. I went to the executive board. I'm now at the financial secretary. This arguably is the best job in the local. Why? I get to help people through retirement. I get to help them through death of their family. It is the most rewarding job in the local, but my job's not over. My job now is to move forward and provide to this union. And if you elect me, I promise to do the same job as business manager, to give you my best, try to do everything I can in the best interest of this membership. Now, that's your call, but that's my goal. It's been my goal my entire career. And guess what? I'm here to fight for it. I'm here to fight for the membership and for this union. So that's what my answers would be, Tom.
There you go. I didn't know I could go back to when I was an instructor and stuff like that, because the best job in this local is not the financial secretary. The best job in this local is being an instructor, hands down, in my humble opinion. I really, really enjoy the job that I have right now. I think I'm very good at it. That's basically your decision. But when you're an instructor, you are guiding people's livelihood from nothing to where we are. Those journeymen that are listening right now and those RWs that are listening right now, you're looking backwards at the struggles. But when you're sitting in a classroom with somebody who's never had a 40-hour-a-week job and you get them through, that is really cool. It really is. Somebody asked a question, who negotiated $80 to $90 for a picnic? Well, when you take in the food, the location, all the toys.
It's easier. It's an easier answer, Tom.
Go ahead.
The members did. This is what the members wanted. They wanted a water park. They wanted a place where everybody could come. They wanted the top of the line food. They wanted the characters, the gaming stations. The members asked for it and we delivered. Yep. So it's not like we negotiated that price. This is what the members want. It's the members' money. We gave the members what they wanted. It wasn't my decision. It was a collective decision as the executive board. And I think we made a best decision. These picnics are the highlight of the year for some people. You get to see people you haven't seen in 15 or 20 years. It is great. And the cost is not the question.
Nope.
The responsibility is, if you're going to cost us money, at least you should do is post up and come see us. That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely right. And, you know, some people make this the event of the year for, you know, their kids, their wives, and they come and they are just so proud to be members of Local 26, so proud to show their family what we can do for families. God bless them. And you know what? Chris gave the best answer. The members negotiated it, because if they did not want us to do it, they wouldn't approve the money, which they do every year. All right. What else we got here?
Well, we're going to close it up, but I see one from Andy. And since he posted his name, I'm going to call him out. Do you plan to have, do you have a plan to get more engagement from the members, to become more involved and to show up when we need them?
I already
like
answered that.
Data centers or rallies. It's amazing you asked that. We got a call to action on Friday for this past Tuesday. We were able to get 40 people there with a 2-day notice. So we have a plan for call to action. We have lists that go out automatically based on zip code for the need we have. I wish more people would take it upon themselves, but it feels like most need a little incentive. I tell you what, we've even offered incentives before. The T-shirts, we might give you a T-shirt if you come. So there are incentives, but Andy, when it comes down to it, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I think if you make it fun, even a rally at a data center, I've been there. We went up to Frederick before. I've done it. You can make it fun. You make it fun, people will come. Believe me. What else we got? You see anything else?
Somebody didn't like my answer.
What was the answer?
So my answer about the picnic,
Yeah.
I missed something. When, if ever, did the members ever collectively say that they wanted all those bells and whistles? Do we give the members everything they want, whether it costs millions or not? Absolutely not. We do not. But the members are allowed to spend the money, their money, on themselves. All right. So at the end of the day, every time we ask for money for a Christmas party, for a holiday party, for a picnic, whether it's in here, Winchester, or Roanoke, we go to the members, and the members approve that money. So
we had Will Ing went up, I think it was in the January meeting, and he made the motion. The motion was seconded. It was carried over to another meeting for all these picnics and all the Christmas parties. There was no discussion. There was no opposition. They know what it's cost because I've given the breakdown before. It's the members' money, and as long as we're spending it responsibly, and let me tell you something, the graduation that the JATC does is $60, $70 a head, and we let every graduate plus a guest come. So it's not uncommon. I don't know if you check the cost of things. Yeah, $80 a person for the events we do is not so bad. All you can eat, all you can drink, and a T-shirt, it's not so bad. And then if you only charge the members $15, it's pretty good.
Right. And do we give the members everything they want? No, we don't. We don't break the law.
We can't. We're fiduciaries. We can't.
Right. We don't. So, and anybody who's ever sat in one of the meetings that I've been honored to chair would know that. You may very well have been there and you weren't listening, but no, we don't give the members everything they want because we don't give the members anything. The membership approve or don't approve. What we do as a collective body is make sure that the money is not mismanaged, to make sure it's not spent illegally, to make sure it's not spent inappropriately. That's what we do. The membership approves these expenditures. So that's the last I'm going to answer. I'll talk about that.
I got another one here. I'd love to be the first one to sign up for community engagement. Reach out to our political department. Reach out to our affinity groups. And the person who asked the question, you already do a lot for this union. Yes, so I know this is a rhetorical question, but Kevin Ladbush, you do a lot for this community already. We appreciate what you do. And anytime you want to sign up and help us, Kevin, we'd love to see you there, buddy.
All righty. So I don't see any more questions. If we can leave off with one final statement to highlight this first Zoom in, what would that be? And what do you want the people to walk away with? Okay, so this is going to be the last one. This came from Robert.
I love it. Let's wrap it up. Let's get a good one. Let's see.
You go first. I'll go second.
All right. One final statement to highlight the first Zoom meeting. Well, We've had some technical difficulties on the back end. We'd love to make sure it was a perfect a Zoom meeting, but it's different. We're not scared of different. If
Nope.
you've ever met Tom or myself, we might be the pure definition of different. And we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, which makes us work well together. So what I'd like you to get away from this Zoom is I challenge each and every one of you to go find someone else and bring them back to the Zoom. Let's find out more ideas. I tell you, some of the best ideas that I ever got came from other people. I don't come up with all the ideas, but if I can put myself in a position where I can execute the idea, whether it's mine or somebody else's, it's fabulous. And this forum will let us do that. So the election is coming up. I want you to vote for me as business manager. We're coming up on the slate will be released this weekend. We're going to come up with everybody that we want you to help support, that we feel, Tom and myself feel, that will be the best representatives for you as a whole at Local Union 26. So with that, Tom?
All right. So what I think, okay, if I'm going to leave you guys with one message, it's this. Experience matters. I was put into a position where you guys would say that I had no experience, but I did. I had plenty of experience. But I also had Joe Dabbs. I had Chris Cash looking out for me. I had Hogan looking out for me. Rich Murphy looking out for me. Without those people, it wouldn't have I wouldn't have been as good as I like to pretend I am. But what I would make absolutely certain that everybody walks away from this thing is this. Experience matters. Your trust matters. 2016, I ran on Vote Your Voice Back. You have your voice, and we do everything we possibly can. We answer tough questions. We answer the funny questions. We answer the silly questions. All right? These are not staged people. All right? I want you to go out and find somebody to bring back to this place, and I want you to specifically look for somebody who expounds the bullcrap that you see on other websites where you're being lied to, or that this is a contractor's local, and have them ask us the questions. We're not afraid of answering the questions. We trust you guys enough to see the truth in our face. We trust you guys enough to ask the appropriate question.
Okay. Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
With that being said, one last question, and you can't see the question, but I'm going to tell it to you. Would you make this Zoom effort available to other candidates? It's funny because Tom and I had that very question today. I'm not opposed to doing it. I'm not opposed to debating or having a conversation with somebody else or making them available on the Zoom. But it's very troublesome to ask that question if you could be on a Zoom when you're posting anonymously, because when you get on the Zoom, you won't be anonymous. You're going to be live, just like we're live. Don't hide behind the anonymous. Come on out.
No, I'm Chris. I'm a little bit different than you. I have no problem debating anybody, none whatsoever. But would we make our Zoom effort available to the other candidates? Why? Why would we do that? You want to debate me? We can do it all day long, not a problem. But go ahead and create your own site. But no, if Chris and we want to make this available to everybody, now how many people are going to have? 200 people? Somebody wants to get up here and just say, I just think you all suck, and then get off? We're here trying to answer serious questions that matter. And if this is a serious question, I will make myself available to anybody who wants to ask me a question on any platform that we can provide.
And I think it's early in the game. Why don't we wait to see nominations, and after nominations, if we have some serious conversations that we want to have, whether it's in my office, whether you want to have a conversation at some other social event, that's fine. But that's fine. We'd love to see everybody. This is a democracy. We'd love to see everybody, and we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. If you please take the survey when it arrives, because we want to know what we could do better, what you'd like to have next time. And there'll be a couple other things on that survey. Be honest, be brutal, because the more honest you are, the better we can make this the next time. So,
and please bring somebody with you the next time. give them the link, send them to the website. We're not afraid of answering questions. I want to see them all.
All right. So with that in mind, we'd like to say good night, everybody. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you at the next event. Take care.
All right, guys. Be safe.